Fang Jian was the princess's husband I personally chose. On our wedding day, he promised me a lifetime together, that his heart would never change. Yet, while we were drinking the nuptial wine, he put the most venomous goo insect in my cup. I was attacked by the goo insect, immersed in illusions all day long, and became an idiot. Meanwhile, my dear husband rose through the ranks because of my status, colluding with the enemy, and betraying the country right under my nose, having an illicit affair with my father emperor's consort. When the enemy state attacked the city walls, I was executed by slow slicing. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn. Back on the day, I married Fang Jian. In this life, I will change my fate, and more importantly, save my country. It had been 2 years since I was given the illusion, Gu, and locked away in the princess's husband's mansion. By then, I couldn't tell day from night, spending all my days in a daze, as if sleepwalking. Even eating and using the toilet required my maid, Xiao Chu, to attend to me. Xiao Chu recorded my daily condition and reported it all to Fang Jian. He knew I had become a complete wreck days, and Binding were constantly at war, and Fang Jian passed intelligence to spies from Binding right in front of my face. But I could only drool and smile foolishly at them. By then, Fang Jian had long betrayed Days, pledging allegiance to Binding along with consort Shu. "Eldest princess, did you know that Days is about to fall?" Fang Jian said, looking at me with a smirk. "How wonderful! I've finally waited for this day." I didn't understand what he said. I just felt a splitting headache, because the goo worm was constantly gnawing at my body. In less than a month, Beining's army was already at the city gates. The dynasty had changed, and consort Shu, who should have died for her country, swaggered into the prince consort's mansion. My goo poison flared up, and I was rolling around on the bed in pain. She ordered people to hold me down. Her gaze fell on my slightly bulging belly, the disgust in her eyes unconcealable. "Sai Tang, you are no longer any kind of princess." She lifted her foot and kicked my stomach, and when she heard me wailing in pain, she actually covered her mouth and laughed. "Your father, the emperor, that old fool, actually let that good. For nothing crown prince take the throne. With a great war imminent, he got scared first, crawled through a dog hole in his dragon robes, and was finally shot full of arrows until he looked like a sieve. I struggled desperately, trying to cover my ears, but she only got more and more excited, ordering people to clamp my hands down tight. It is just a pity for your old acquaintance, Xiao Huai. He fought to the death to defend the city, but didn't even get to keep a complete corpse. His head is still hanging on the city gate, his eyes aren't even closed. Now Jiyan and I can finally be together openly and honorably. As for you, the eldest princess of the former dynasty." She pinched my chin, her eyes filled with the vicious glee of having seized power. "You will naturally have to disappear completely. That moment was my last moment of clarity before death. I used all my strength to lunge at her, my nails scraping a long, bloody scratch across her face. She shrieked and gave me a hard, backhanded slap. Take her away. How dare she hurt my face? Skin her alive, and the bastard in her belly feed them both to the dogs." I was taken to a mass grave, where tens of thousands of my day's people were buried. The heart, piercing, bone, chilling agony made me all the more clear-headed. Scenes from the past came flooding back to me. My life was about to end here. When I woke up again, I had unexpectedly returned to 2 years ago, to the day I married Fang Jian. I sat on the bed, my wedding dress a terrifying shade of red. Outside, the guests were in high spirits, and Fang Jian was drinking and toasting with them. It wasn't time to enter the bridal chamber yet. Xiao Chu was quietly waiting by my side. She had been with me since childhood, and after my marriage, she continued to serve me. But later, she was controlled by Fang Jian, monitoring my every move for him daily, and even adding a goo-luring drug to the calming incense I used. When the goo worm smelled the fragrance, it would wreak even more havoc in my body. I used to have 2 incense sticks worth of clarity each day, but now I am groggy all day long. This time, I absolutely cannot let her betray me again. Lifting my red veil, I stared intently at Xiao Chu. Princess, is something the matter? My stare made her uneasy, and she subconsciously took 2 steps back. Xiao Chu. I grabbed her tightly, my nails digging into her flesh. What Fang Jiyan promised you is ultimately a pipe dream that won't come true. If you still want to live, don't be blinded by his sweet talk. Xiao Chu looked at me with terror in her eyes. Miss, what do you mean by this? I've long known that you and Fang Jiyan were having an affair behind my back. He promised to marry you, and you actually believed it. I didn't. I pointed at the jadeite pendants on her ears. This is the token of love he gave you, right? Bo Prefecture just offered a tribute of fine jadeite jewelry, and Father Emperor distributed it among the concubines of the rear palace. Consort Shu is the most favored and received the most items. This pair of pendants on your ears is just something she picked over and left behind, that Fang Jian used to fob you off with. Xiao Chu's body couldn't help but tremble, and in her eyes, besides shock, there was also confusion. He and Consort Shu have long gotten together. If you have any brains, you'd know how ridiculous his promises to you are. He comes from a noble family, and is the husband of the Grand Princess of Days. Even if he really drove me mad or stupid, would his Fang family allow Fang Jian to marry you? Xiao Chu's eyes were already brimming with tears. I knew that I had convinced her. But my father is still in his hands. Fang Jian is truly despicable. However, I was already prepared. The Bu Prefecture where your father is located is the fiefdom that my father, the Emperor, gifted to me. It is filled with my secret agents. He has imprisoned your father under the Fusheng Pagoda at the Golden Bridge. I've known this for a long time. Tomorrow, I will send people to rescue your father. When Xiao Chu heard I could save her father, her knees went weak, and she finally knelt before me, crying uncontrollably. Princess, I have wronged you. I didn't have time to listen to her confession, so I pulled her up. The sound of the watchman's clapper has already sounded outside the door. Zishi has arrived. Fang Jiyan is about to come over. Quick, go to the kitchen and find me a piece of fish. The doubt on Xiao Chu's face grew heavier, yet she still turned and left. Zishi had passed. I saw Fang Jiyan walk in with unsteady steps. Princess. His face was full of drunkenness, but his eyes were bright. The love he was performing was about to overflow. In my last life, I was filled with joy, completely fooled by that look in his eyes. This time, I just felt disgusted. He filled the nuptial cups and deliberately knocked one over. While I was pouring another cup, he put the goo bug that would drive me mad into the cup. This bug is colorless and cannot be distinguished by the naked eye. He had originally pulled this scheme off flawlessly. I pretended to know nothing and took the wine cup he handed me. I tilted my head back and downed it in one gulp. When I drank the nuptial wine, he must have thought he had victory in his grasp. But he didn't know. I had a piece of fish hidden in my sleeve. The illusion gewworm loves the smell of fish the most. The moment I drank, it had already slipped out of the cup and into my sleeve. Fang Jian smiled and put down the wine cup, reaching out to touch my face. Saitang, the spring night is short. His fingertips swept downwards, gliding over the elaborate wedding robes, and landing on the silk sash at my waist. He leaned his body forward, and the overwhelming smell of alcohol washed over me. Utterly shameless. I tilted my head back to dodge and gave him a backhanded slap. This was the first time I had ever hit Fang Jian. He was too stunned to react, blankly touching his stinging cheek. You reek of alcohol, Fang Jian. If you intend to use my wedding as a social gathering to curry favor and win people over, then you shouldn't have entered my room tonight. Fang Jian covered his face, the panic in his eyes completely exposed. He knelt down with a thud. Princess, princess. Jian knows he was wrong. I looked down on him, and at that moment, I really wanted to pull out a dagger and end him right there. But I couldn't yet. There was a bigger fish behind him. Go, fetch me a basin of water to wash my feet. Fang Jian froze on the spot, as if he hadn't understood what I said. Of course, in my past life, my love for him had long transcended our statuses. In front of him, I had long ceased to be the noble eldest princess of days. Didn't you hear me clearly? I picked up the wine cup from the table and smashed it directly onto the ground. With a crisp sound, he woke up as if from a dream, gritted his teeth, lifted the hem of his robe, and walked towards the door. After a moment, a clamor of voices came from outside the door. Xiao Chu opened the window, and Fang Jian's mother's shouting came in with the wind. She married my son, so she is the daughter, in-law of my Fang family. What is with putting on the airs of an eldest princess? How dare she make my son serve her? What a thing! How could I take this kind of crap? I kicked the door open with one foot, pointed at her and said, "And what kind of thing are you? How dare you be so insolent with Ben Gong?" Fang Jian was still holding the foot, washing water in his hands, and seeing me storm out aggressively, he immediately protected his mom behind him. "Sigh, princess. How can you speak to my mother like that? She is your aunt, after all. Being so disrespectful for your age, why can't I say it?" Fang Jian could barely hide his displeasure, but he was still holding that basin of foot washing water in his hands, just fierce in appearance but cowardly inside. Ayo, how could our Fang family have married such a daughter? In-law, what a sin. She swung her hand, wanting to give me a slap. Her impression of me is still stuck in the pre-marriage image of me who loved Fang Jian to the bone and was weak and easy to bully. Without hesitation, I caught her hand. With a backhanded twist, I restrained her, seeing me and Fang Jian's mother actually scuffling. The surrounding people were so shocked their eyes widened and their jaws dropped. "Princess." I took the lantern from Xiao Chu's hands, tore open the mulberry paper, and in a backhand motion slammed it onto her head. A shrill scream echoed through the courtyard. Her hair was set on fire, and her screams were just unbelievably wretched. Fang Jian was greatly shocked and hurriedly dumped the basin of foot. Washing water meant for me over his mother's head. The whole farce was dumbfounding. No one would have expected that the ever-dignified and composed eldest princess would actually do something so outrageous on her wedding night. I did this not only to put the Fang family in their place, but also for another reason, to take advantage of the scuffle with Mother Fang and filially present the goo insect Fang Jian had prepared for me to his own dear mother. "Fang Jian, I still have a use for you, so this agony of 100 insects devouring the heart, your mother will just have to suffer it for you." 3 days later, Mother Fang suddenly had a seizure at the hour of Z. From then on, she couldn't tell day from night, couldn't recognize her own family, and became a senseless fool when she had an episode. It was even more severe than when I had mine. Hearing that his mother had come down with hysteria, Fang Jian's full brother, Fang Yuan, also returned to the capital from Zhangyan to visit. The moment he saw me, his beady little eyes looked like they were about to shoot fire. In my past life, when I was having an episode, Fang Jian forced me to have intercourse with him. I thought the bone, deep agony was finally over, but I never expected his bastard of a brother would actually follow him and barge into my room. He had been coveting me for a long time. This pair of brothers treated me as a plaything, and often tortured me until I was barely human. I once scratched him in pain, but he ordered someone to pull out all my fingernails. The wound was dripping with blood, and when the best liquor from Qingfeng Tower was poured on it, I screamed in pain, kneeling and begging him to stop pouring. But he laughed so hard he couldn't stand up straight, saying my screams were strangely pleasant to hear. Sister-in-law. I came back to my senses, my palms soaked with sweat, but a gentle and charming smile was forced onto my face. During the banquet, wine glasses clinked, and the atmosphere was joyous and harmonious. I rarely poured wine for Fang Jian, so he was flattered, and his address of princess was full of affection. But he didn't know that under the table, my foot and his younger brothers were already hooked together. The night wind was biting. I sat in the room and blew out the candle. There was a rustling sound at the window lattice. A dark figure jumped down, still with a call of sister. In-law. I gently picked up the wine cup and teacup and took a sip. The dark figure got closer and closer to me. When he was about to reach my side, I grabbed the silver hairpin from my head and stabbed it into his chest. Hearing his scream, I screamed along with him. The shrill screams were endless. When Fang Jiyan arrived, he saw me crying like a pear blossom in the rain, while Fang Yuan was clutching his chest, blood flowing freely. "How dare you trespass into the princess's room at night, men? Seize him." Fang Jian's expression changed. He wanted to plead for Fang Yuan, but when he saw my cold eyes, he stopped himself. "Your Highness, the eldest princess, how should he be dealt with?" On the table was a fine vintage bought from Qingfeng Tower. I lifted the red cloth and sniffed it. As expected, the wine's aroma was rich. "The wound is too deep. It needs to be disinfected." Fang Yuan's heart-wrenching cries echoed throughout the entire prince consort's residence. His mad mother, as if sensing something, was also wailing incessantly. Their shouting made my ears hurt. "Gag him, and then—" I glanced at Fang Jian, who was standing beside me, already dripping with cold sweat. "Serve him with castration, princess." I glared at Fang Jian. "You can't bear it." Just then, someone came in a panic and reported to me. He didn't make it. He stopped breathing. Fang Jian's legs gave way, and he sat right on the floor. "Dead?" I frowned. "Even if he is dead, the castration will proceed." The days passed in the blink of an eye. After I turned the prince consort's residence upside down, it was time to start the next step of my plan. To celebrate Xiaohuai's great victory in the war against Beining, my imperial father held a palace banquet. A lot of things had happened at this palace banquet. Consort Shu, in order to frame the mother of the third prince. Consort Li bribed the old nanny serving by her side to wear my mother empress's, that is, the late empress's favorite hairpin. My mother empress was my imperial father's most untouchable taboo. She had given birth to my imperial sister, Princess Chang'an. When foreign enemies invaded, my imperial father, in order to curry favor with the neighboring country, actually sent my imperial sister away for a political marriage. To humiliate days, the neighboring country stripped the imperial sister of her clothes in front of all the court officials, put a sheepskin on her, tied a leash, and threw her into the military camp for the soldiers' amusement. No different from a prostitute. Facing mother's bitter pleas, Father Emperor remained indifferent and later got annoyed and grounded her. Mother Empress missed Chang'an all day long, washing her face with tears, and finally suffered from tuberculosis, dying of depression before she was 40. Before she died, Father Emperor came to see her. She spat a mouthful of blood on his face, cursing that his country would be lost, and he would not have a good end. From then on, the former empress became a taboo in the palace. Consort Shu somehow got the former empress's favorite hairpin and used it to frame Consort Li. It was precisely because of this palace banquet that Consort Li was thrown into the cold palace. From then on, the third prince lost the emperor's favor and became the son that Father Emperor disliked the most. But I know that he is the one who should inherit the throne the most. He is brave and resourceful, worries about the country and the people. But because he is not appreciated by Father Emperor, he retreats behind others. On the contrary, the crown prince is violent and reckless, without any wisdom. Just because he is the eldest son of the new empress, he became the heir apparent. If it weren't for him, how would days have to bear the disaster of a fallen kingdom? After entering the palace, I went straight to the Changle Palace where Consort Li was. Seeing me coming, Consort Li was a little confused. What does the Grand Princess want with me? I glanced outside the door and finally saw the third prince walk in. To help consort. Li, it must be done in front of the third prince. Only in this way will he remember my kindness. I told the third prince and Consort Li the whole story. The third prince had some confusion in his eyes, but still gave me a grateful smile. "Imperial sister, why are you helping my mother consort?" In the rear garden, the third prince stopped me and asked, "I am not just helping your mother consort, I want to help you even more. What does imperial sister mean? Feel free to speak directly. We both know the crown prince is unworthy of his position. You are staying away from court politics now, merely to hide your talents, so that the crown prince will not be wary of you. But if he becomes the heir apparent with his character, do you think he will really let you go?" The third prince's eyes flickered, a faint uneasiness rising. Imperial sister is saying, "I am on your side." I extended my hand to him. If third brother stands in a high position one day, Imperial sister has only one request. Imperial sister, please speak. Bring back Princess Chang'an. She has suffered too much in the neighboring country. I pressed my chest, trying to endure the heart-piercing pain. To protect the country, one should use the sword in hand and the wisdom in mind, and not— I looked into the third prince's eyes. Not sacrifice a woman. The palace banquet began. Xiao Huai, in a suit of armor, entered the hall with his left and right deputy generals to have an audience with the emperor. He was kneeling right across from me. As soon as I looked up, I could see him clearly. From his youth, Xiao Huai had followed his father to the front lines to resist the enemy and fight in battles. When I was 16, his father died on the battlefield. After his mother received the news at home, she was suddenly struck with a severe illness and has been bedridden ever since. My imperial father told him to return to the palace to handle his father's funeral and to take care of his mother while he was at it. I went to his father's funeral. Inside the mourning hall, wails came in waves. He wrote a eulogy for his father, its words so mournful and moving, they reminded me of my imperial elder sister suffering in a neighboring country, and I was overcome with grief. When he was thanking the mourners, he saw I was crying the hardest and secretly passed me a handkerchief. "Eldest princess, don't cry." His hands were covered in calluses, but the handkerchief was snow, white. It was as if my heart was struck by something. Later, he served his mother at home for 3 months, so I was always running over to his residence. I watched him, full of youthful vigor, dashing and free-spirited. I watched his sword, practicing hand, yet it always couldn't resist picking the best-bloomed jindai flower on the branch for me. When the foreign enemies attacked, he put on his armor and had to set off again. Before he left, on a sudden impulse, I wanted to pour out to him the apprehensive feelings of affection that had risen in me because of him. For the very first time in my life, I took off the jade pendant from my waist and stuffed it into his hand, but he shook his head and stopped my words. "This general has been on the battlefield for a long time. I am afraid I can't give the eldest princess what she wants." The ambiguous affection ended here. "You keep the jade pendant." My heart felt sour, but I still turned and left. The moment I decided to let go of Xiao Huai was the beginning of a lifelong nightmare for me. The banquet was bustling with excitement. Only I was gloomy and unhappy. I couldn't control my thoughts of my past life, when at the end, what fell into my eyes was Xiao Huai's headless corpse. "Eldest princess, don't cry anymore." I actually cried. A snow-white handkerchief appeared before me again. The hands holding it were still rough, yet broad and thick. I lifted my head and saw Xiao Huai's clear eyes. Halfway through the palace banquet, Consort Shu's face turned extremely ugly when she saw that her plot had not succeeded. She gave Fang Jian a look, quietly got up, and left her seat. As expected, not long after, Fang Jian also left his seat. The night grew deeper and the dew was heavy. A night breeze started to blow. Through the thick bushes, the sound of a rustling conversation drifted into my ears with the wind. "Did you put the goo poison on her? Why hasn't she reacted yet?" "Of course I did. Could it be that your goo insects are useless? That is why she is safe and sound." The two of them argued endlessly about the matter of poisoning me, but in the end, there was no answer. "The Emperor's health is getting worse day by day. I've put poison powder in his daily meals. He will surely die within a year. I have already pledged my allegiance to Beining after our child is born. It will be time for you to return to Beining." It was indeed recently announced that Consort Shu is pregnant. I never thought that even this child would be Fang Jiyan's. A chill ran up my spine. I was too shocked, not just because the biological father of Consort Shu's child was Fang Jiyan. What was even more terrifying was that the storyline of my previous life seemed to have been rewritten. No, that is not right. It wasn't rewritten, but accelerated. In my previous life, Consort Shu only became pregnant a year after I married Fang Jiyan. But in this life, it was a whole year earlier. The fall of the Day's Kingdom was imminent, and there wasn't much time left for me. I subconsciously took 2 steps back, but accidentally stepped on a civet cat that was wandering out from the consort's palace. The civet cat cried out and ran away, startling the 2 of them. Consort Shu left first through a secret passage, while Fang Jiyan walked towards me. He couldn't let him discover me now. I subconsciously wanted to run, when a figure suddenly appeared behind me and covered my mouth. "Sai Tang, it is me." That was Xiao Huai's voice. I instantly stopped struggling. He put his arm around my waist and pulled me into the dense foliage behind us. The mottled shadows of the trees covered us. His hand was on his scabbard, as if ready to make a move at any moment. Luckily, Fang Jiyan didn't notice anything unusual. As I watched his back recede into the distance, Xiao Huai finally let go of me. The night wind kicked up sand and dust. I squinted to avoid it, and he turned and stood in front of me. "Sai Tang, what on earth is going on?" I told Xiao Huai what happened, but I concealed the matter of my rebirth. "General Xiao, if someone deliberately plots against me, humiliates me, and harms me, what should I do?" Before he could answer, I smiled and pinched a gnat that had landed on the web of my hand and was about to suck my blood. With a squeeze of my fingertips, a small pouch of blood burst out. I should pay it back 1,000, 100 times over. Xiao Huai's gaze was frighteningly dark. The precious sword in his hand was unsheathed, and he offered the hilt to me. "I am willing to be the sword in the eldest princess's hand." I looked at him quietly, not taking it. "Don't get involved in the matters between me and Fang Jiyan." My original intention was not to drag him into this, but perhaps he misunderstood, and a hint of hurt actually showed in his eyes. "But I have something else I'd like to ask of you." Xiao Huai took a step forward, his gaze earnest. "What is it, as long as you say it, and as long as I can do it?" Fang Jiyan and Consort Shu have long had treasonous intentions. I've found out that Consort Shu is a distant relative of the Queen of Beining. She entered the palace with a fake identity, with the goal of helping Beining conquer Dazi. Beining has already placed secret messengers at the border, specifically to pass on news from the palace. When you are at the front lines, could you help me keep an eye out and intercept the secret letters? Xiao Huai nodded. "Okay, then let's go back." I walked a few steps forward, but then turned back, bumping right into him as he had just started to walk. General Xiao, although I was a bit hesitant, I still decided to make things clear to him. "I know you feel guilty towards me, thinking that if you hadn't rejected me back then, I would never have had any involvement with Fang Jiyan." Xiao Huai quietly looked at me, signaling for me to continue speaking. "You don't need to feel guilty. None of this has anything to do with you, so also." He cut me off, saying, "So, I don't have to think about repaying the favor." I quickly nodded. Xiao Huai smiled. "Princess, don't overthink it. I never regretted rejecting you back then." Hearing him say that, I actually felt a bit disappointed. That is good then. Everything I've done is to protect you. It was then and it is now. Xiao Huai's eyes were sparkling, like a vortex about to swallow me whole. "Do you understand?" I nodded, but he suddenly lowered his head, and in that moment the distance between us closed infinitely. My heart pounded like a drum. His voice rang by my ear. "Do you really understand?" "I understand." He finally softened for once and told me the truth. He was accustomed to life and death, yet he feared separation. Saying he'd protect me was an admission of his deep feelings. After the palace banquet, Xiao Huai received a war report that Beining had launched a surprise attack on the border. and 500 soldiers of Dazi had been ambushed with tragic casualties. He immediately departed for the front lines. The night before he left a branch of Weigla by the silk tree outside the prince consort's mansion. Under the flower, there was a silk handkerchief. He had written his words to me on it, but it was only 4 simple words: be safe. Another month passed, and I received a secret letter from Xiao Huai. His subordinate, Vice General Sui, was caught colluding with the enemy. To save his own life, he revealed a shocking secret. The crown prince had long harbored thoughts of rebellion. The prominent families hold military power and have long been in cahoots with the crown prince. As soon as he gives the order, they will bring troops to the city gates and force the emperor to abdicate. Xiao Huai informed me of this matter, and I knew that the opportunity had finally arrived. I entered the palace overnight, found the third prince, and informed him of this matter. The crown prince intends to rebel. Tomorrow you will bring Xiao Huai's secret report and have an audience with His Majesty. The third prince understood and nodded. General Xiao Huai is on our side. The crown prince's plan is doomed to fail. I will have Father Emperor appoint me to lead the charge in setting things right. After this is done, depose the crown prince and establish a new heir. Early the next morning, the third prince submitted a memorial to Father Emperor. Father Emperor flew into a rage upon seeing the memorial and immediately ordered the third prince to thoroughly investigate the matter. My informant in the palace was closely monitoring the movements of the Eastern Palace. The crown prince was truly too foolish. Already harboring treasonous thoughts, he didn't even know to keep a low profile, arranging to meet with the prominent families so brazenly. This, in turn, perfectly confirmed what was written in the memorial. Father Emperor had long been wary of the prominent families, and this mess made by the crown prince gave him the perfect excuse to completely purge their power. Within the month, Father Emperor issued the edict to depose the crown prince. When the edict arrived, the crown prince was still in the Eastern Palace, laughing with his favorite concubine, dead drunk. After being deposed, the third prince could not hide his brilliance. With the help of me and Xiao Huai, he not only wiped out the remnants of the crown prince's faction, but also forced the aristocratic families to flee the capital in a panic. After this series of maneuvers, Father Emperor appreciated the third prince more and more, and finally decided to make him the new heir. The only regret of this operation was that Fang Jian was not harmed. In my last life, probably to obtain intelligence for Beining. Fang Jian was on very good terms with the crown prince. Unfortunately, in this life, before he could even get close to the crown prince was already unseated. Those ministers who were implicated in the crown prince's turmoil have all been thrown into the great prison. In the imperial court, Father Emperor is going to reappoint the officials. Imperial son, in-law Fang Jian, loyal, trustworthy, benevolent, and courteous. Father Emperor. Just as the chief eunuch was announcing Fang Jian's promotion, the third prince suddenly stepped forward. Father Emperor, your son has heard that the imperial son, in-law's mother, is gravely ill, and he is already exhausted from attending to her. The official documents he drafted in his current post as a minister's assistant are riddled with errors. I beseech Father Emperor to be considerate of the imperial son, in-law's filial piety, and allow him more time to care for his mother. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire imperial court fell silent. On the surface, every word the third prince spoke was to praise the imperial son, in-law's filial piety. But in reality, he was viciously impeaching him in front of all the civil and military officials. If Fang Jian were to step forward and explain now, asking your majesty for the promotion, he would be unfilial. If he said nothing, he would be tacitly admitting to the errors in the official documents he drafted as a minister's assistant. There was no way forward and no way back. As the eldest princess, naturally, I had to play along with the third prince's act. Crown Prince, your words seem a bit too targeted at the prince consort. Although the prince consort has many family matters, he has never neglected his official duties. You say he is full of flaws, but do you have any proof? The The third prince was just waiting for me to ask this. The moment I finished speaking, he immediately started his performance. He listed out every single one of Fang Jian's mistakes and oversights. I looked back, and Fang Jian's expression was already extremely grim. Your Majesty, forgive me. Demote Fang Jian, the secretary, to attendant. Father Emperor was not feeling well today. His head was also aching terribly, and he just wanted to dismiss the court session quickly. He listened impatiently, and with a wave of his hand made the decision. Fang Jian had thought that becoming the prince consort would lead to a meteoric rise in his career, but he never expected to be demoted again and again. The more I cornered him, the more flaws he would reveal. He knew that his official career had been completely severed by me, so he wanted Bei Ning to defeat Da Zi as soon as possible. To make it convenient for him to see Consort Shu, I often entered the palace to visit Consort, Li bringing him along with me. The spies sent by the Eastern Palace had long placed Consort Shu's bedchambers under tight surveillance. There, every move was under our watch. Imperial sister, when do you plan to close the net? I looked out the window. On the day of my rebirth, it was still a biting spring cold, but now a thin layer of snow had already begun to fall. Soon. Another month passed, and Consort Shu finally gave birth to a prince. Father Emperor was ecstatic, immediately promoted Consort Shu to noble consort, and even held a special palace banquet for the little prince first to celebrate. Second, his body was getting weaker, so he wanted to use a joyous occasion to get rid of the bad luck. Fang Jian and I were both to attend this banquet. Fang Jian was delighted because he knew that the prince born to Consort Shu was his child. Having cuckolded the reigning emperor, how smug he must have been. But he never expected that the day Consort Shu gave birth to the prince was what I had prepared for him. A countdown to his death. The palace banquet began. Fang Jian and I took our seats. Father Emperor's body was already very weak at that time, sitting in the main seat, his gaze already a bit unfocused. Consort Shu, holding the child, slowly sat down, only to see her wearing a flower crown on her head and dressed in magnificent clothes. Her attire was actually a bit more grand than the Empress's. I lightly took a sip of tea, looked towards the third prince who was looking at me, and nodded lightly. After a song and dance, Father Emperor was already a little drowsy. Just then, concubine Ye from Consort Shu's palace suddenly stepped forward. I want to accuse noble Consort Shu of having an illicit affair and defiling the imperial harem. Concubine Yue was not favored, and noble Consort Shu had always treated her harshly. The third prince had her expose the consort today, promising to protect her father from now on, so she naturally agreed. Father Emperor was originally dozing off, but upon hearing Consort Yue's words, his eyes immediately shot wide open. He slammed his palm on the table, pointed a trembling finger at Consort Yue, and said, "Say that again." Consort Yue, following what the third prince and I taught her, described the matter of noble Consort Shu's secret tryst with a man in meticulous detail. But she didn't reveal that the man was Fang Jian. Your Majesty, noble Consort Shu has brought a man back to her chambers several times, and in less than a month, news spread that she was pregnant. There must be something suspicious about this. Before Father Emperor could speak, I slammed the table first. How dare you? You dare to frame noble Consort Shu. Guards. The third prince spoke up at this moment. Elder Imperial sister, don't be anxious. Today she has slandered noble Consort Shu in front of so many people. If this matter isn't thoroughly investigated to clear noble Consort Shu's name, I am afraid the rumors in the palace will never end, and the little prince will also be subject to gossip because of it. Father Emperor held his forehead and asked the third prince, "How do you want to investigate this thoroughly? A blood paternity test." When noble Consort Shu heard this, her expression changed immediately. She knelt down, holding the child. "Your Majesty, I have been wronged." Father Emperor, to clear noble Consort Shu's name. This is actually a good idea. Suddenly, the sound of something shattering came from beside me. Fang Jian had accidentally shattered his wine cup, I turned my head and asked with feigned concern, "Husband, what is wrong?" Fang Jian kept shaking his head, not realizing he had already turned pale from fear, and anyone could see his guilty conscience. "If that is the case, then let's do the test. Your Majesty, your body is invaluable. How can it be harmed so casually?" Fang Jian desperately tried to stop him. Just then, Father Emperor suddenly coughed violently twice, and actually coughed up fresh blood. The head eunuch beside him had long been won over by the third prince, and he took away the wine cup with the fresh blood in it. The guards held down noble consort Shu as a silver needle pierced the finger of the baby in the swaddling clothes. Fresh blood went into the cup. The result was just as I had predicted. The 2 drops of blood did not merge. Father Emperor's body was already overwhelmed by this point, and the third prince was hesitant, unsure if he should continue to provoke him. But I spoke up first. "Father Emperor, this blood, it actually doesn't merge. Noble consort Shu. She really." Leaving the second half of the sentence unsaid, Father Emperor immediately clutched his chest upon hearing it, overcome with rage, and directly spat out fresh blood before fainting. "Summon the imperial physician immediately." I remained calm and methodically directed everything. "Take that harlot and her unfilial son away." When I turned back, I saw a wet patch beneath Fang Jian. He'd actually pissed his pants. "Imperial sister, Father Emperor was already in such a state. Why did you have to continue with the plan and be so aggressive?" The third prince still felt sorry for and was in awe of his father. So he was confused when he saw my cold expression. I cupped my chin and said lightly, "He should have died long ago. This is just a part of my revenge plan, Imperial Father. He stopped being my father long ago. He is the one who most deserves to die. If he weren't so obsessed with women, how could he have favored consort Shu, giving her an opportunity to take advantage? He is most cruel to his own kin, yet exceptionally cowardly towards foreign enemies. To secure his throne, he sent my imperial sister to the neighboring country as a gift, with no regard for whether she lived or died. Mother Empress also died because of his cowardice. In his eyes, women are just playthings, but he was betrayed by the very plaything he raised with his own hands. Consort Shu had already given him a slow-acting poison. It was supposed to take effect later, but the way I provoked him today directly accelerated its effects. Him spitting up blood was well within my expectations. Once he dies, the third prince can ascend the throne. When Xiaohuai completely defeats Beining, they will surely set their sights on the neighboring country. When the neighboring country is invaded, I can trade reinforcements for my imperial sister's return. Every day earlier he dies means one less day of suffering for my imperial sister. I can't wait for him to die right now, the sooner the better. Noble consort Shu has been thrown into the dungeon. How do you plan to deal with her? How to deal with her? By giving her a taste of her own medicine. Of course, Fang Jian couldn't stay idle at home any longer. When he heard I was going to interrogate consort Shu, he insisted on coming along. "Princess, so many things happened at the palace banquet today, that the adulterer's lover has not yet been found, and she may be in danger. I'll accompany you into the palace." His excuse was so lame, but I agreed anyway. I was going to have him go with me today. "Lai Sitang, what have you done to my child? Say something." Consort Shu's hair was a mess. It seems she had already been tortured. She could barely protect herself. Yet she was still worried about her child. Ah yes, what mother doesn't love her own child? But my child, wasn't he killed by you all too? I looked down on her and said lightly, "In the distant mountains outside the palace, the wind is strong, and there are many wild dogs. I wonder if your child, having gone there, can survive the night." "You venomous woman, give me back my child." Consort Shu shrieked heartbreakingly as she lunged at me. Just as she was about to grab my neck, her body suddenly froze. She looked down to see a sharp blade stuck in her chest. Fang Jian's body was trembling like a sieve. You, Consort Shu's eyes were filled with disbelief, and in them there was also a hint of sorrow. I hadn't expected that she actually had some genuine feelings for Fang Jian. What a pity. Fang Jian was just using her all along. I must protect the princess. He spoke with such righteous conviction that the terror on Consort Shu's face gradually faded, her eyes looking as if they were veiled in mist. Binding. Binding will defeat days sooner or later. Avenge me. How pathetic she was, not even exposing Fang Jian at the very last moment. And the revenge she spoke of was nothing more than a beautiful dream. In these past days, all the secret letters that Consort Shu and Fang Jian sent to Binding had long been intercepted by Xiao Huai. Through secret letters, Xiao Huai obtained a lot of intelligence on Beining. Right now, the fighting at the border is at its most intense. Within 3 days, news of victory will surely come from the frontier. Beining's surrender is just around the corner. The prince consort got a scare, help him back. Watching his trembling figure retreat into the distance, I just felt inexplicably excited. After all, there is a good show coming up. Princess, this corpse. How should we deal with it? Peel her face off, preserve it well, and send it to the Fuma's residence. I've said it, the suffering I endured in my past life, I will make you all repay it twofold in this one. Walking out of the Ministry of Punishments, I saw the third prince's attendant unexpectedly rushing towards me. Imperial sister, it is terrible. Father Emperor has passed away. Good that he is dead. Father Emperor was finally dead. That night was the most peaceful night's sleep I'd had since my rebirth. In my dream, I was still young, with Mother Empress and Imperial Sister by my side. In that dream, there was also Xiao Huai. He gave me freshly picked Wagala flowers and called my name, Saitang. Saitang. The new emperor ascended the throne, granting a general amnesty to the realm. Consort Shu's baby in its swaddling clothes was secretly sent away by me. I admit, I still couldn't be that cruel and ruthless. The child was always in its mother's womb. He knew nothing, and was truly innocent. Sending him away from the capital city, far from all conflict, perhaps he could have a peaceful life. Xiao Huai sent a victory report from the border pass. Beining retreated again, and finally surrendered. Imperial sister, just as expected, Beining has set its sights on the neighboring country. I nodded. Although Beining has surrendered, their treacherous ambitions haven't died. The neighboring country has rolling mountains, making it an excellent place for defense. If they can conquer the neighboring country, they can then attack Dazi from its territory. Borrowing the neighboring country's soldiers is not only to bring Imperial sister back, but also to plan for the future stability of Dazi. Returning to the prince consort's manor, I heaved a long sigh of relief, sat down in the side room, and closed my eyes to compose myself. The sound of the door opening was heard. Xiao Chu came in and whispered softly in my ear. Princess, the Ministry of Justice has ordered someone to deliver the things. After Consort Shu died, Fang Jian didn't dare to sleep for 2 nights in a row. After doing something to wrong his conscience, he also started to fear ghosts. I really want to ask him, when I died, did he have nightmares too? Would he also worry that my spirit would come in the dead of night to take his life? Sure, don't you blame me? I was forced into it. 100 candles were burning inside the room, but the door and windows were suddenly blown open. The flames flickered and swayed, and in an instant were all extinguished. Ah, Fang Jian screamed, curling up into a ball and hiding in the corner. I knew he was already scared to the extreme. Suddenly, a candle was lit, and the person holding the candle wearing a goose, yellow dress, slowly approached him. Jian, when will you come down to accompany me? Fang Jian glanced over, and standing opposite him was actually Consort Shu. Her pale face was lifeless, her body was covered in bloodstains, and a dagger was stuck in her chest, the very one he used to kill her. Sure, spare me. Just let me go. Fang Jian was on the verge of a breakdown. He kowtowed frantically to the Consort Shu before him, continuously muttering words of repentance. But that goose, yellow figure got closer and closer to him. Fang Jian's whole body began to convulse uncontrollably, and finally the whites of his eyes rolled up, and he passed out. Xiao Chu took off Consort Shu's face skin and threw that thing aside. Princess, he wasn't scared to death, was he? If he died, that would actually be getting off easy for him. I quietly watched him lying unconscious and ordered Xiao Chu to pick up the face skin. Put this thing in the ice chamber to freeze. If he wakes up tomorrow and is still fine, we'll come scare him again at night. Unfortunately, Fang Jian was too fragile. After waking up, he was like a walking corpse, unable to tell humans from ghosts. He kept calling out Shu'er, Shu'er, his expression dazed. It seemed he had gone completely mad. Although Fang Jian has gone mad, I still stayed by his side, never leaving him. The people of the capital all said I was kind and sincere, a role model for all women in the world. That day, I had just given him a vicious beating, when suddenly the sound of horse hooves came from outside the door. The sun was shining just right, and I saw Xiao Huai standing at the doorway, leading a fine horse with a woman sitting on its back. I couldn't quite believe it and called out, "Imperial sister." Chang'an's face was already streaked with tears, and she answered me with a sob. Across from me, Xiao Huai was also smiling at me. It was a bright and beautiful spring day, and I suddenly remembered the time I first met him. He took a freshly picked Waiala flower from his robes, which was in perfect bloom. "See, Tang, I am back."